Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the Gameweek 5 podcast of ZTalks FPL. So, Gameweek 4 is done. I hope you guys had good scores. I've seen a mixed bag really on my Twitter. A lot of my followers have some really big scores. A lot of them were very close to the 100 mark, and I've seen some pretty average and pretty bad scores as well. In my case, I think I had an okay week, I would say. Not one of those who owns SemenYO. So yeah, we'll talk about SemenYO obviously later. But just looking at my team out here, as you've followed my podcast in the last week, and the Game Week 4 podcast, I did give a hint that maybe I'll take a hit or two, and I ended up doing that because I was very keen on Bruno. I was very keen on Van Dijk as well. So I got those guys in. I already had Senesi in my team as my free transfer for Patrick Dogu. So yeah, I think it all ended up pretty okay. I would say I took out Kukurea, so Kukurea went out, and luckily for me, he was benched as well. And even if you just exclude the benching factor, I would say I was pretty convinced with the decision anyway, because once again, if you go back to my previous podcast, I did talk about how I felt that Chelsea have been a little lucky in terms of keeping the clean sheets that they've kept so far this season. And in the game where they did not keep a clean sheet, Kukurea sort of got me an assist. So he didn't really blank for my team, but that was just my feeling, right, with the way the season is going. Something that I've spoken about a lot of times, that I really feel that with the new DEFCON rule, when you're picking defenders in FPL, this is the season of the centre backs. The centre backs who will get you regular DEFCON points, or maybe someone like a Van de Ven, for example, who is playing under a manager like Thomas Frank. And as we know, Thomas Frank teams, they're pretty good defensively. So they've got good defenders in there. So even though someone like a Van de Ven, he may not get DEFCON points regularly, but he comes with a bigger cushion compared to some other teams in terms of the clean sheets. And if you're lucky enough, like I was this week, you go home with 14 points. So that's the thinking. So yeah, I think this is the season for center back. So that's that worked out well for me. I feel that with Burnley's vulnerability on set pieces, I was a little unlucky in terms of not getting a Van Dijk goal, really, because if you watch the game, right, it was a very tight game. We'll talk about the Salah captaincy a little more in detail when we review the games, for Game Week 4. I feel that Virgil van Dijk could have had more, because Liverpool had a lot of the ball. He didn't really get DEFCON points, but see, that's what you get with someone like a Van Dijk, right? When Liverpool are looking comfortable and they're not conceding chances, they're likely to keep a clean sheet. Van Dijk will obviously get the 6-pointer, and he'll be involved in the bonus points as well. In the games where it's tight, he'll come up with the DEFCON points, and if you're lucky, you get a clean sheet on top of that. So yeah, very very happy with my decision. Cody Gakpo went out, and I feel he was not really involved in the game. So even though I took him out for a hit, I took Kokorea and Cody Gakpo out for a -8. I was not really bothered. At no point was I afraid that either of those players could punish me, even after Kokorea came on, right? I was not really that worried, because I was confident about the players that I brought into my team. Bruno Fernandes just came home with a 2-pointer. A bit of a weird game that for Manchester United. I was expecting City to win, of course, but I thought that something was not right about the team selection. with Ruben Amorim. Again, we'll go a bit more in detail about that. But yes, overall, not a bad game week for me. I walked home with 80 points. You take away that -8 for the hits that I took, and you're looking at a score of 72 points for this game week, which I feel is not bad at all. Triple captain is out of the way. Like I said, I was in two minds in terms of triple captaining Salah or Haaland. Both ended up doing well, and that's the reason why I have both, right? And I still see a lot of wild cards, and people are not really willing to go with a structure where they can have both Salah and Haaland, and I feel it's a mistake. And even though right now, I mean, my rank has dropped a little, quite a lot, I would say, after game week 1. I've come down from, I think, around, I was in the top 100k after game week 1. Not that it matters, and even not, right now the rank doesn't really matter, to be honest. But I am now at around 1.99 million, but I'm quite comfortable and very confident about my team structure going forward. I think as we progress, right, I will be one of the few managers who will constantly have the cushion of Salah and Haaland in terms of captaincy. And yes, there is a possibility that I can move Salah on in the future as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail when I sort of deep dive into Liverpool later. But yeah, this is what my team is looking like right now. 72 points. Petrovic, disappointing, the way Bournemouth conceded that goal to Mitoma, but he's not going to keep clean sheets every week. Senesi picked up a yellow card, no clean sheet, but see, that's the beauty of DEFCON. He got 2 extra points, so despite not keeping a clean sheet, despite picking up a yellow card, Senesi got me 3 points, so that's great. Elliot Anderson, my boy, finally, he gets his DEFCON. He gets me 4 points. That's almost like an assist. I'm very happy. Bruno, I spoke about him. We spoke a little bit more about United later when I just go down and review the United City game. Reinders, I feel, is very unlucky if you watch the game, right? Just take a sip of water. Yeah, I feel Tijani Reinders was, I feel, very unlucky. If you watch the game, I think he would have had 1, 2, 3 returns in the game, right? Even towards the end of the game, remember there was a moment where Oscar Bob sort of cuts inside, and I think with players like Oscar Bob, right, he's really a low IQ player in the final third. He'll do a lot of things well in the build up to it, right? When he's passing the ball around, when there's no pressure, and doing those fancy dribbles. But in the decisive moments, these kind of players always struggle to take the right decision. That's my feeling. I mean, I'm a City fan. I hope I'm wrong and he comes good, but that's my feeling with players about him. So the point of the matter is that there was a point towards the end of the game where he really took on players, and the right thing for him would have been to just lay it off to Tijani Reinders, who was in a very good position to score, but he didn't do that. He really delayed the pass and just fizzed the ball in. Then in, I would say, a no man's land. It didn't fell to Reinders, it didn't fell to Foden, and it was just a painful sight to watch. But I think Reinders did all right, and if he was not wasteful, if he had his I would say shooting boots on, there was a chance where he was through on goal. It was a 2v1, I would say, with a United defender and the United keeper, and Reinders was alone, and he had Doku alongside him. I feel that Reinders, he was a little selfish. I don't think he's a bad player. He has decent football IQ. I think he was a little selfish, a little desperate to go for goal. I think had he kept his composure, he could have still scored. But I feel the right decision for him would have been to just pass it on to Doku, who was in the open space, and Doku would have ended up scoring. Obviously, we wouldn't get Doku's points, but we would have gotten assist for Reinders, and that wouldn't have been bad, right? 3 plus 3, that's still 6 points. But anyway, it is what it is. Obviously we're not going to get points from a player like Reinders every week, right? He's a 5.56 million. I believe he's a 7 million player, really, who's been underpriced, but yeah, not too bad. Salah scored that late penalty, 27 points, kept triple captaincy out of the way. Uh, I'm not too happy, of course, because I really expected him to get those 15, 16, 17, 18 sort of points. I think this was the game where uh, away game, right? We expect the home team to be a little more open, and I think that should have played into Salah's hands. One thing I noticed was that Salah in this particular game, a lot of times he was slightly taking positions in the half space, not really that out wide, but still not very optimal from an FPL perspective. We'll deep dive into this. Just let me finish this team review. Pedro Neto, I have him. I think this is his second or third week in my team. He did get me a goal in the other game week. I feel he was unlucky to not get a return this week, but not expecting much, right? I sort of got him in with the mindset that like initially as a double up with Cole Palmer, of course, but it's not quite worked out, I would say. And in the last pod, I discussed Caicedo as someone who can really be a valid Chelsea pick. A part of me regrets not taking Neto out for Caicedo, honestly. And Caicedo walked away with a big haul. I think he got like 12 points, scored a goal, got his DEFCON. I think he picked up 3 bonus as well, if I'm not wrong. So yeah, Caicedo, really want him in my team, man. Just amazing. I spoke about Caicedo, I spoke about Paqueta, so we will cover that as well. And yeah, the two strikers, Ekitike, I felt he had a bit of an okay game, didn't really do well, but Liverpool in general were flat. Haaland scored twice. I have been talking him up since game week 1. He's been in my team, he hasn't left my team. I did warn you guys in the previous podcast that don't go without Haaland if you're playing a wild card. You're playing a wild card, you need to have Haaland in your team, right? It's a no-brainer. You watch him play this season. Even though last season he had a bit of an off season, but he still ended up scoring. I think he got like an all competition. He got like 50 goals and assists, right? So that is his flow, right? Imagine Haaland in a bad season. In all competitions, he's getting 50 goals and assists. What will Haaland do if he is looking fit and sharp the way he's looked this season? I tweeted, around the City game that if it continues this way, I see Haaland scoring 40 Premier League goals this season itself. Now, do you want to be without this kind of a player for even one game week in your season in FPL? The answer is no. So I don't know why people have this mindset that only game week 6, Haaland should come, and no. Especially if you're on your wild card. You're on your wild card, make the right decision, look at the trends. You need to have Haaland in the team. Come on. So I think Haaland had a monstrous game once again, as it has been for all 4 of his games, right? If you look at Haaland's data, you just see, look, right from game week 1, right? And it's not just the goals that he scored. He just blanked in one game, of course. Looked at his XG numbers, looked at his expected goal data, right? 1.99 XG versus Wolverhampton, where he scored twice. Blanked versus Tottenham, but he still had very good chances in the game and made a lot of runs that were not picked up by his teammates. So this 0.47 XG, I would say double that. That was his level in the Tottenham game as well. Brighton, again, excellent. Scored just one, missed a few chances. 1.4 XG, ridiculous. Same story in the Manchester United game as well. So, I mean, he's on another level. If you don't have Haaland, you have to be worried, because this guy, he is capable of scoring a brace in every single game, I would say. He'll score a brace, he'll get a goal or an assist every now and then, or in worst case scenarios, I think most of the times he'll score a goal. So you need to have Haaland in your team. That's the bottom line. So yeah, that's just a quick review of my team. just quickly before we talk about I would say game week 5, we'll just do a quick review of the fixtures that took place. uh, Arsenal Nottingham Forest ended 3-0. I did say that I was not expecting a big Arsenal win as such. Uh, in Given all the news surrounding Ange Postecoglou about how he's not a defensive manager and stuff like that. Arsenal did ended up scoring the 3 goals, but honestly, if you watch the game, it didn't really look like Arsenal are going uh, all with their guns out and blazing, and they want to blow the opponent away. Zubimendi scored 2 goals. I mean, come on. So that what kind of game it was. It took a banger of a goal from the CDM, the Arsenal CDM, right? It's a CDM that's scoring a goal, a CDM that is not a valid FPL pick ever, in any of the lifetime. Uh, he does not get DEFCON points, nothing. So, but yeah, he ended up scoring twice. So that's what it took for Arsenal to really, get going. Early in the second half, Eze played this really nice ball to Gyökeres, who still, to me, he looks a bit like Lukaku, I would say, right? In just terms of his mannerisms, the way he runs. I feel he struggles a lot when he's trying to make those runs in behind. But the point is that it looks like he definitely is their focal point when he's attacking. Now, to what extent, to how good an extent they are doing, does not matter in FPL terms. It matters in real life terms, because at the end of the day, that is something that will decide whether Arsenal will finish third, second. See, they have the quality to feed Gyökeres if they're looking at him as their focal point. I feel that Gyökeres is someone who does not really offer a lot outside his game, unlike someone like a Haaland. So Haaland has this, I don't know, some idiots on Twitter, right? They're always like, oh, Haaland is not a good footballer. Well, watch football with your eyes, man. Look at the data. You look at both of it, and Haaland is one of the most complete players in the game, and he's the best at it, right? Look at Gyökeres, for example, and I think Ekitike is a lot like Haaland as well, but obviously he is not that elite in terms of finishing, in terms of goal scoring. So that's a different question. Gyökeres, on the other hand, a very different type of a center forward. Like I said, he reminds me a bit of like Lukaku, not Lukaku of the Everton days, where I feel he was a little more effortless in terms of the kind of runs he would make. I think Gyökeres reminds me a bit of like Lukaku from his United days, for example. But the fact of the matter is that he is going to be the main man. It's clear that Arteta wants the team to sort of create chances for Gyökeres. So I think that is good from an FPL perspective, to be very honest with you. Like I said, right, the fact that he wins Arsenal trophies is a different conversation altogether, whether that's good enough for Arsenal. But from an FPL perspective, I think that bodes well. One worry would be that it's yeah, just you see this number out here, 67 minutes. I think that is probably my worry. Uh, Played 59 minutes in the United game. I think is really out of the game. So I feel every now and then when Arsenal are playing a big side and Arteta sees that he's really ineffective in those games, because Arsenal don't really like attacking. Like, Arteta is not an attacking manager, especially in the big games. So I think those kind of games, we could see Gyökeres being taken off. I won't be surprised if he doesn't start one of these big games, by the way, right? Just a heads up. I mean, I'm not trying to scare you, but see, again, Gyökeres is not really the kind of player you want in a big game anyway, right? He's not going to be that effective unless he gets a penalty, of course. So that's why he's a good FPL pick, right? So he's the center of the of their attack in terms of the chances that they're creating, and he's on penalties, and he's at a good price. So that's definitely a factor. But yeah, you see his data as well, right? It's very interesting that on our screen, if you look, it's the status of Gyökeres, by the way, just scrolling up so that you see what's going on. So you look at the stark difference in his XG numbers when he's played Manchester United, 0.0 XG, so absolutely nothing to show for. He played Leeds at home, gets 1.28 XG, including a penalty. So yes, he was at the end of chances in the Leeds game. Same story as the United game and the Liverpool game now. Liverpool away, 0.0 XG, absolutely not involved, no chances created. Same story when they played Nottingham Forest at home on Saturday, 0.84 XG. But the negative for me, one negative for me is here. I wouldn't say negative, but just a flag, something to consider, is that he was taken off at 67 minutes because the game was pretty much done. Arsenal are a very defensive side anyway, so the thinking was that listen, the game is done. Come off and rest up a bit. So yeah, just a little flag. Will be interesting to see how Arteta really manages his minutes going forward. But at 9 million, I think you're getting Arsenal's main man, who's also on penalties. I think that's a very good deal. So that's a takeaway. But yeah, beware of his minutes, I would say. In terms of other Arsenal options, there are the likes of Eze and Noni Madueke. You may sit and argue about they had a good game in real life, they looked good on the eye and this and that. I don't really look at them as FPL options right now, especially with all the DEFCON situation that we have currently. And I don't really want guys who will get me an assist every now and then. That was also my thinking about SemenYO as well, by the way, right? Why I didn't get him in. We'll talk a bit about him as we go down. But yeah, I think if you're going for Arsenal, you need to go for Gyökeres. I don't think any of their other midfielders are really worthy. For anyone who's just started playing this game and you see Zubimendi scoring 2 goals and you want to bring him in, don't do it. It's a big mistake. FPL is not the kind of game for players like Zubimendi. He would have been an option if he was strong in terms of his DEFCON. If he just people see, you look at this, right, the defensive contribution numbers, he's really deep lying playmaker. So think of him in a role that Bruno is playing for Manchester United right now, but at the same time Bruno also does a lot of defensive work. So it's like a 2-in-1 sort of a role for Bruno. With someone like a Zubimendi, he is being tasked to just sit deep and help Arsenal in the build-up, right? So that is his role. So yeah, not much to say. I would say in terms of his defensive contribution. I think he did cross it in the first game against United, and that was about it. And that was also because United were really dominating Arsenal, I would say, if you watch the game, despite losing the game. So I think that played a factor. But apart from that, he didn't get any defensive contribution points versus Leeds United. Nothing against Liverpool as well. Nothing against Nottingham Forest. So yeah, don't waste your time getting someone like Zubimendi. And if you want to get someone who gets you DEFCON points, you can look at Caicedo, look at Elliot Anderson. A lot of you can also punt. If you still don't have him, you can go for Tijani Reinders, who is the other option. Speaking of the Arsenal defense, once again, yet another clean sheet for Arsenal. It's no secret that Arsenal are the best defense in the league. Arteta is a very defensive manager. My only problem with their defenders is that, again, they don't keep a lot of DEFCON points, so that immediately becomes a factor. I think Gabriel hit that 10 mark right at the end, right? So that really helped him sort of, bump up. He also got a bonus point because of that, and he ended up on 6 points. So that was a factor. I just want to see that, with the Arsenal set piece dynamics, who really ends up, scoring the most goals from set piece. Because if I'm not wrong, what we've seen so far is that it's actually Calafiori and Julian Timber who are really at the end of these crosses. With now the problem with Timber and Calafiori is that how secure are their minutes because so far Arsenal were playing one game a week. Now that changes. Europe comes into play. Champions League fixtures come into play. Uh, Arsenal have signed someone who can play the left centre back and the left back position. So I don't see how secure Calafiori is from a long term perspective. There's also MLS who can play that left back role. There's Ben White who can play the right back role with Timber. So just worried about this bit of rotation. And I think Arteta, I don't know if others have noticed, he has this knack of suddenly benching one of his defenders, not called Saliba, every now and then, Saliba or Gabriel, right? So that's my worry, I would say, that I don't really want that he suddenly benches Tim. I get in Timber, for example, because I was very close to picking Timber on my game week 2 wildcard team. So, and obviously we saw what happened, right? He got like 23, 22 points or something. So I'm just worried that if I get a Timber in, for example, and suddenly Arteta, he prefers White in the next game, and White has a good game, and then he gives Ben White a run of starts in the next 4 or 5 games. So that's not really ideal. So that's a factor that's constantly in my mind, right? Which is why I feel that, given how strong Arsenal are defensively, and see, it's wise to have someone who will still get you those clean sheet points. Now, who could that guy be? I'm thinking of this guy, David Raya, 5.5 million. So I have a 4.5 million keeper in my team right now. I'm just thinking that Raya could be worth it, because in games where, so now see, an important factor here is that if you've played FPL for long enough, you would know that the kind of keepers that do the best in FPL are normally keepers that have a good defense in front of them, but at the same time, it's the defense sort of sets up in a way that does not allow a lot of big chances, which means the opponent a lot of times will end up spamming shots at you, maybe from a distance, or just a wayward shot inside the box that's not really threatening, but from a statistical point of view, it adds to the goalkeeper's save tally. How that helps in FPL is that you look at David Raya in the Manchester United game, for example, where there were a lot of pot shots. Cunha was banging it from a distance, and there were a lot of wayward shots as well, right? Not very good finishes. So that really helped. The fact that Arsenal kept a clean sheet, and that helped Raya make about 7 saves. So he goes home with a 10-pointer in that game. In the other games where Arsenal are keeping a clean sheet comfortably, he's keeping 6 points. So this is my thinking behind David Raya, especially in a season where we have a lot of other defenders who are offering a lot of DEFCON potential. I would say Arsenal and City defenders are not very good from a DEFCON perspective, and this is something that I've spoken about in the previous pods as well, so you can just go back to my old episodes and have a listen. But yeah, the bottom line is that Arsenal defenders will not do very well in terms of DEFCON, because they keep so much of the ball, and they defend as a unit. So that is another example. So the philosophy is very different when you look at City defenders and Arsenal defenders. So you look at Ruben Dias, for example, he will not get DEFCON points because City keeps so much of the ball, right? So with Arsenal, there will be games, yes, where they will keep a lot of the ball, but when they're defending, right, if you look at their defensive philosophy, look at Arteta's defensive philosophy, they all defend as a unit, right? It's like a very irritating team that you've come up against, and there's a lot of just playing in that. A lot of times they play in that defensive block of 4 and 5, which means that even though they may not come into tackles, they'll almost choke the opponent out to just give the ball away, and that really, and they defend right. They press throughout the field, right? So it's not just the defenders who are contributing. Everyone is falling back. Madueke is falling back. Rice, whenever he plays, he's falling back. They've got Zubimendi as well. Merino, if he's playing. So I think it's a very unique defensive philosophy of Arteta. So that could be a factor. Now, if it turns out that this guy, obviously, see Raya, I've spoken about him. I'm keen on getting him in, and it's a nice, I believe, a set and forget for 5.5 million. But if it turns out that Gabriel is consistently doing well in terms of the DC numbers, the defensive contribution numbers, I think he becomes a valid pick for our teams. As of now, it's not looking like that. See, look at the United game, it's 7. Against Leeds, it was 3. Liverpool game, 7. Nottingham Forest, for the first time, he ended up with 10 DC. So I think that's a little bit of wait and watch. And like I said, right, I just want to know that who really is that Arsenal defender that is the main target from set pieces, right? In the past seasons, it's been Gabriel, but I want to know what's the situation like this season. See, I think Timber is an interesting one, right? You look at his. You're just looking at his XG number here. See, not nothing to show against United because he came off the bench, just played 19 minutes. But against Leeds, he ended up scoring 2 goals, got an assist. Obviously, I mean, he'll score those goals because he was one of the targets in the game. 0.81 XG. Liverpool, yeah, I mean, we didn't really expect him to do much in the Liverpool game anyway. But against Nottingham Forest as well, he ended up with a 0.3 XG. So to me, it looks like really, I would say that so far it looks like Saliba or Gabriel, they're playing that decoy role in the set piece. And I've said this about City, right? When City get corners, and if you remember the season where City was scoring a lot of set piece goals and corner goals, in that season the way they set up was that Ruben Dias used to be the decoy, as in a corner situation or a free kick situation, attract a lot of opponent defenders, and that helped John Stones score a lot of goals in that season. So to me, this seems like a very similar situation where Timber and Calafiori are sort of the John Stones here, and Saliba and Gabriel are more of like the Ruben Dias sort of a role where they just doing a lot of pushing, they're attracting a lot of defenders, and that is helping Timber and Calafiori get that kind of time and space to get into better positions. So yeah, will be interesting to see how that goes. So yeah, that's my thinking about Arsenal. Really, I think we've spoken a lot about Arsenal. A lot of deep diving about Gyökeres and the defenders. But yeah, if long story short, if you ask me of my 2 preferred Arsenal picks right now, I would say I would go for Gyökeres at 9 million, and I would have David Raya 5.5 million. Really, I think he's an easy set and forget keeper. This is very interesting because I don't have SemenYO in my team. The funny part is that his ownership is crazy, right? And he's only going to go up in price. The thing with SemenYO is why I'm still not convinced is if you take the Liverpool game aside, okay, where he was really just on the counter and no one expected him to do well against Liverpool. I think he did all right in the Wolverhampton game, but again, see, Wolves are relegation material, right? They are going to get a beating from every decent side in the league. I'll just take a sip of water. So yeah, about the Wolves game, I think against Tottenham he looked flat to me. I don't know what. I'm just trying to understand what the tactical setup is, right? Because against Tottenham, I think it was Ivan Elson who was getting most of the chances. So I just want to see that, if there is a different in terms of the way the Bournemouth manager is setting up in the home games and the away games. I think there could be a bit of a tactical tweak at play here. Now, in the home game, right, against Brighton, and that's the game week 4 fixture that we are talking about. I feel that SemenYO was so lucky because yes, he gets the assist, but if you watch the game and if you also look at his expected assist number, you look at his creative numbers in the game, they were not very good. And how did he get that assist? Because the player who scored the goal, I think is Scott scored the goal, right? Scored a banger of a goal, right? So see, again, it's not like it's bad to get an assist. I'm just saying that if you just sort of analyze these 13 points, so that's how the assist came. Now the penalty situation. Did we really expect SemenYO to take the penalty? And I think there'll be a lot of oversmart people who will say yes, of course, SemenYO is the second choice and blah blah blah. Trust me, no one really saw it coming. Okay, so not a lot of people expected SemenYO to take the pen. If that does not happen, this outcome would have been that Ivan Nilsson, he won the penalty. Everyone was expecting Ivan Nilsson to take the penalty. Had he done that, he's won the penalty himself. And if he scores, that means he's not getting the assist for it. Which means Ivan Nilsson scores and he gets 6 points. Alright? And then, because SemenYO has got an assist, and he was not on bonus points when he had just the assist, which means SemenYO would have finished on just 5 points. And that 5 points because of a simple pass that resulted in a banger of a goal by Scott. See, this is what makes FPL so funny, right? Because suddenly SemenYO takes the pen, he ends up with 8 more points. So, I mean, that's the funny part, right? So if you account all these things, you factor in all these things, it makes you think, that really, I'm still not very sure about SemenYO. I'll be very honest. But see, he's getting the points, right? And if you have him in your team, he's a firm hold. I just want to know that, is he really on penalties? Yes or no? Do we have the clarity around that? I hope that someone puts this question to the Bournemouth manager in one of the press conferences, hopefully this week itself, so that we can get the clarity. The other side of things, right? This is something that where I'm being a little critical of SemenYO. The plus side of it, right? When I think in favor of SemenYO, that yes, okay, he got the assist and he was very lucky to get the assist and so on and so forth. The other factor is, what if SemenYO is actually now the number 1 penalty taker at the club? Regardless of the factor, right? Like, I'm talking about from a long-term perspective. Okay, what if he keeps the penalties and he's just had a chat with the manager and he said that, listen, I want to be the main man. I've worked a lot on my. We spoke about his shooting technique. Like, I think it's not great, so that's another factor. I think he really tries to hit the ball very hard. He's got that one-dimensional technique when he's front of the goal. But yeah, just playing that factor I was talking about, right? Where what if it's SemenYO who's spoken to the manager that, listen, I want to keep the penalties whenever I'm on the pitch, regardless of who is on the pitch. I have to be the first choice taker, because when it comes to open play threat, I am the one who will come up with the most goals. So it's only fair that I get to keep the penalties. I look at this season as the season where I really want to take it to another level. So I want to keep the penalties. Let me have a great season. and let me just take my career to that next level. So because see, SemenYO, with he must be getting that feeling that if he does well this season, a lot of big clubs will be after him in the summer, right? So you could have the likes of Liverpool, maybe Man City, Arsenal, right? So I'm just thinking, right, from that perspective, that if it turns out that Semenyo actually is the club's first choice penalty taker now, it becomes very interesting. Okay, and that would shake things up, and that would also force my hand to really get him in, because if he's on penalties, it's a non-brainer. Okay, so that will be interesting to see. But if we discount that factor, if we just take away this assumption that Semenyo is very well the first choice taker, I don't see the numbers being very encouraging. See the XG number that you see on the screen for the Brighton game. The 0.87 is inflated by his penalty, the penalty that he took, right? So he didn't really have, I would say, he didn't really have a good FPL game from that perspective. I would have said he had a good game had we known that he's on penalties, right? So just for example, now that we know that SemenYO is taking penalties, okay, let's say he starts the Newcastle game and he takes a penalty in that one too, then I would say that he wasn't lucky, because we already knew the SemenYO's on penalties. Here, for us right now, this is a new information sort of a thing, right? So yeah, that's my feeling about Antoine Semenyo. But see, the fact of the matter is, the reality is that he's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 5 attacking returns in 4 games. That's very good. His price is going up. I think he's already went up to, from 7.4. He's went up to 7.5. The price was. It's only going to go up, right? I expect him to be 7.6 or 7.7 by next weekend. I'm still going to hold on, because I don't think I'm that desperate to get SemenYO, right? Because see, with a player like Bruno or Haaland or Salah, right? So with Bruno, I know that in most games he'll get those DEFCON points. He's on penalties. It's only a matter of time before he starts getting an open play assist or a goal. So all those factors in play. I don't have that kind of a confidence with SemenYO, but if you have him in your team, very well done. I think he's probably got you. I'm just talking about the majority, not overall. I think in 3 weeks, I think he's given you like 2 assists and 1 goal thanks to that penalty. So well done. Keep your points, enjoy it. But personally, I want to see it out. And see, if you're in a boat similar to mine, I would say don't panic. It's just SemenYO, not the end of the world. Let's see how it goes. If will Bournemouth get a penalty every week, and I will not be surprised if Ivan Wilson takes the next penalty, by the way. So that's, I believe the logical part of me tells me that SemenYO is not the first choice. But yes, if it turns out that we get some clarity and it turns out that SemenYO is the first choice penalty taker, then I would agree that it's a mistake from my end, and that changes everything, right? Then I think SemenYO is potentially a 8.5 to 9 million pick, purely from an FPL perspective, right? So apart from that, yeah, not much to discuss in the Bournemouth-Brighton game. I feel the other obvious, Bournemouth pick is Senesi. If you don't have him, I think you should get him in. Not much for the keeper here. He didn't really make a lot of saves. Yeah, I think that's Brighton. Not quite feeling it, right? There's not a lot of FPL options to discuss at Brighton. So yeah, Mitoma scored, but do we really want him in our team? I think the answer is no. But quietly, Mitoma has registered a couple of attacking returns in the last 2 games, right? So he didn't blank versus City, got an assist, and he scored versus Bournemouth. So just a heads up, but I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't pick any Brighton player in my team right now. Even defensively, they're looking a bit shaky. So yeah, we'll see if they pick up some pace later, if the fixtures ease up. Crystal Palace Sunderland. If you watched my last pod, I spoke about not being very confident of Crystal Palace scoring against Sunderland, and the reason is common sense. I know you're not going to like it, because everyone in the community has Mateta, has Munoz, but just repeating myself, right? Palace are without Eze. Eze has moved on to Arsenal. They're without Ismail Yassar. They, I don't see a clear-cut creative outlet in that team to really give the striker, Mateta, that kind of confidence to finish off his chances. I know he missed a big chance, but you need more than one big chance in a game, especially when you're at home. You're supposed to be a better team than Sunderland on paper. So I think, yeah, it's I want to repeat myself, to be honest. But once again, just a heads up: don't expect a lot of points from Palace from an attacking perspective. I would say that applies to a Munoz. That also applies to Mateta, I would say. And the factor behind that is that obviously they've lost their creative players, but also the fact that they'll be playing midweek games in Europe. So I don't think they have the squad to keep up with that, right? I think they could crash in one of these games. In fact, this game that you see against Liverpool, right, in game week 6, and this is the point where a lot of people are planning to actually get rid of Salah. I'm not going to do it. Of course, I'll speak about the situation where I may think of moving on Salah, but I think that could be a bad game for Palace, and Liverpool can actually totally open them up if Liverpool sort out their issues by then, because these players will be tired. You can't keep playing the same 11 players, week after week. If the attack is not functioning properly, I feel it affects the team, defensively as a whole. So, yeah, not very inspiring, and I'm not surprised as well. See, it's a bad thing, right? When you look at Mateta, who is your number 9, and he's a number 9, you bring him in for the goals, and what does he do? He gets you 9 defensive contribution points. Do you want defensive contribution points from your striker in FPL? See, he's not hitting 12, so those defensive contribution points are of no use, right? So, do you really want him to get defensive contribution? No, you want him to score goals, right? You want him to get attacking returns. So, not quite happening, I would say, from that perspective. And this is a play that I've really loved. If you followed me on Twitter, right, I've always been a big advocate of Mateta before he actually had a that breakthrough season at Palace. And I've also been a fan of Watkins also, for example, right? We'll talk about Villa a bit later. But yeah, this is just to reiterate what I've already spoken about Palace. Same with Munoz, right? I feel that if you need a Palace defender, and just it's almost like it's I'm repeating myself, get Lacroix, 5 million. He's a Defcon beast. I think Lacroix will. Did he hit his? No, he didn't hit his Defcon threshold. Just got 6, but I think he did that against Chelsea. He did that against Nottingham Forest too. I think you should go for Lacroix. In that case, right? Because if Palace are not attacking well and they are doing a lot of defending, he is the player who is bound to get the most Defcon points. And I spoke about this, I think, in the game week 1 or the preseason pod, if I'm not wrong. This guy, he's always had a knack of scoring goals. So he's not had a lot of chances this season, but I remember last season, see, look at his XG numbers from last season, right? 3.5 XG. He underperformed. He just got 1 goal, but even if you go back and look at his historical data throughout the career, he's always been that beast sort of a player, right? When Palace, or in general throughout his career, right? He's one of the main targets in his team when it comes to set pieces. So I think the goals could come, and it would be lovely if it comes when you have him in your team. So I feel that if you don't have a Palace defender right now, you're looking to buy one, I think instead of Munoz, I would prefer Lacroix. I think he could be the pick. Just a big shout out to the Sunderland keeper. He's someone who really was in my consideration on the wild card, but I think he's been superb, right? I think the two Sunderland players who really catch my eye, I'm not talking from FPL perspective only, is one is Granit Xhaka. He's Premier League proven, absolutely killing it at this age as well, right? I think he is the player that will really help Sunderland, stay at this level. So I think he's having a monstrous game as well. And yeah, and back to this guy, right? He's been excellent. Ruben Royce just made a lot of saves against Sunderland, really kept them in the game, and I think he could be a legit FPL option as well. If you look at his data from this season, and he's the guy who's also had good historical data before. So I think he's a fair pick. 8 points against West Ham, bit of an off game against Burnley, I would say, where Sunderland were not quite at it, but the other games, right, against Brentford and against Crystal Palace, he's really kept Sunderland into the game. So I think he could be one of those. If you go back in time, right, we had the likes of Tom Heaton doing really well in FPL, playing for a lower half side. So I think he could be a similar pick. And so if you're in the market for a 4.5 million goalkeeper, I think Robin is definitely a worthy pick. So yeah, that's about the Palace Sunderland game. Not much to talk about in the Everton Villa game. I think it was a very dull game. Not much to talk about Villa. Unlike other content creators in the community, I'm not going to spend my time on Villa anymore because I've spoken about them so much. If you're following my content, I've told you multiple times you need to sell Watkins, you need to sell Morgan Rogers. Aston Villa players are not worthy of a place in your FPL team. You go back and look at my tweets, the problem lies just the basics the team is doing, the kind of team selection. I really like Unai Emery, but what he's doing with his team selection is not good at all, right? You cannot keep picking Yuri Tillmans, you cannot keep picking John McGinn, expect the results to change. As long as these players are playing a little further forward, it's not going to work out, right? Because Ollie Watkins looks isolated. I think it could be that kind of a season for him where he really peaked the season or the season before that, and I think since last season he's been a bit of a downward trajectory, and I think this season it's really showing. So it could really be that season where he just falls off completely. So, and obviously the lack of service is not helping him at all, right? Emery is a very paranoid manager, and they're not doing things right. A lot of Villa fans took offense when I said that. I actually tweeted this on my account, right, that they are going to have a hard time, and I expect them to finish in the lower half of the Premier League table, and that's turned out to be true. They look lifeless when they're attacking, not good at all. So you can talk about fixtures all day, right? And there will still be content creators who will tell you that, oh, they have the fixtures and the points will come and blah blah blah. But I mean, come on, are you telling me that Brentford in game week 1 was not a good fixture? You're talking about a striker worth 9 million. He's gone down to 8.8 million now, right? Are you telling me that Brentford game week 2 was not a good fixture? Are you telling me that Newcastle at home, supposedly Newcastle, I mean, people will tell you that Newcastle are a good side now, but if you go back to the narrative in preseason and how content creators were hyping up this guy, it was completely different. They were promoting Watkins as an option that's elite, and someone, oh, he's a steal at 9 million or all those things. Are you telling me that game week 1 fixture was not good? Are you telling me that the Brentford fixture was not good? Are you telling me that the Palace fixture in game week 3 was not good? Are you telling me that game week 4 Everton is a bad fixture? These, on paper, all these 4 games were easy fixtures, and Watkins has been rubbish, and Villa have been rubbish in all these games. Tell me how and why will the story change against Sunderland, against Fulham, against Burnley, against Tottenham? And honestly, I don't buy into this fact that Sunderland away is an easy game, or I think the only supposed on paper easy game that I see in the next 3 is Burnley at home in game week 7, and that's it. See, there's always a fear that when you take a player out, they could end up going, and they'll score a goal. But listen, that will happen in any game. But it's a rut if you're keeping these players in your in your team. It's not really helping you, right? It's not a good thing in the long run. 9 million is a lot. Spending it on a nothing player right now. I mean, I love Watkins, but right now he offers nothing. Just get rid of it. You can get Gyökeres in your team for that price. Uh, if you want a short-term punt, you can get Ekiteki. If depending on the exact situation, right? So there's just so much that you can do. I mean, don't do this to yourself. Come on, right? So yeah, not going to talk much about it. Fulham versus Leeds ended up in 1-0. A very very late own goal scored by Goodmanson. To me, Fulham look uh, flat. I think they're a very bland side. I saw a lot of FPL managers on my timeline picking Fulham players. A lot of punts on. I think Josh King at 4.5 is okay if you're benching him. I think he's the kind of guy that you can rely on when maybe he is required to come on as an auto sub, right? And one of these unfortunate games where one of your players is benched, for example, I don't really look at him as a starter. And the same with their other attackers, like Munoz and Muniz. I think, yeah, Muniz, Rodrigo Muniz, or uh, Raul Jimenez, if and when he starts. I mean, it's just Fulham, right? They're not one of the best attacking sides in the league anyway. So why do you want to, waste a spot in your team? Just if you have them in your team, just move them on, man. Just move them on. They're not worth it. So not much to. I think Leeds were good defensively once again. Despite the fact that this was an away game, I feel that Leeds were quite nice. Very unlucky to have conceded that own goal in the end. Luckily, I didn't play Goodmanson. So with Goodmanson in my team, it's been a bit of a mixed bag because there are times where I played him and he didn't keep a clean sheet. But the times I've benched him, for example, he's ended up keeping a clean sheet. So this time, again, he was on my bench, scored an own goal. Luckily, I was not affected by it because all 11 of my players played, and he was actually first on my bench. So a part of me was just hoping that what, just end up keeping the clean sheet, because if it turns out that one of my players is not featured at all, at least I'll have a nice 6-pointer coming on. But in the end, it all worked out well, right? So not much there. Next one, Newcastle versus Wolves. I think not much to talk about from a Wolves perspective. I think they're pretty much going down the season. I look at them as relegation candidates. Not much to talk about Newcastle as well, right? I think the one that stands out to me is Fabian Schär, but he's a little expensive at 5.5. I think Fabian Schär could, get the DEFCON points every now and then. This guy made his debut Ultimate, but I think it's still a wait and watch because the fixtures to me are still not very good. I think once we know what the Yuan visa situation is, and remember Newcastle are also playing in the Champions League, so a lot of factors, and they're playing Bournemouth next, they're playing Arsenal, and then there's NFO, and then there's Brighton, and then I feel the fixtures are a little tricky, I would say. So it's a bit of a wait and watch for me, honestly. But let's see what the situation develops with Visa and this guy, who's first choice, who's getting how many minutes, how well are Newcastle playing. I think we can assess after the Arsenal game, right? So I'd say let's just hold on to that. But yes, I think from an FPL perspective, I think Fabian Schär is someone that we can consider, and yeah, maybe one of the strikers once we know that which of the two is going to be our 90-minute man who takes penalties, right? That's also going to be a crucial factor. So will Fabian Schär take a Newcastle penalty? I don't know, man. I hope that we get the answer in the Champions League game. Will it be Ultimate? Will it be Fabian Schär? Will it be Yuan Visa when he's fit and available? See, so a lot of unknowns, right? So yeah. So yeah, not much about Spurs. Actually scored three versus West Ham. So I spoke about Paqueta for West Ham. We'll talk about him a little bit more. I feel that Paqueta was very unlucky in the first half, because if you were watching the game at the start of the game, right, in the first half, he was just so involved, right, in and around the box. I think West Ham were like playing fluid football, and Paqueta actually started as a striker for West Ham. But then, as the game went on, right, Spurs really, they grew into the game, and then Suchek with that stupid challenge really killed the game for West Ham. So I feel that if you pick Paqueta, right, and he's still a player that I'm very keen on. If you pick Paqueta, I think it's very unlucky that you didn't end up with anything, because he started the game so well. West Ham started the game so well, and it didn't really end up well. It's something that I'm very happy about, because I have this guy in my team, Mickey Van de Ven. Just adjust my AC. Was 1 second. A bit humid. So sorry. Yeah. So I have Mickey Van de Ven in my team. Scored a goal. Taken off early. I was hoping that once he was off, hoping that Spurs end up conceding a goal, so that anyone who owns Romero loses that clean sheet. But that didn't happen. That's the greed that comes with FPL, right? You always want your players to get the most benefits. But I'm very very happy. Actually, I feel that having watched the West Ham Tottenham game, especially in the second half, I feel that Van de Ven was very unlucky to have not scored more, because every time they were taking a set piece, I always had the feeling that Van de Ven will end up scoring, because there's just so many defenders surrounding Romero. And a similar situation happened, I think, for the first goal, where the defenders were focused so much on Romero, they ended up ignoring Pape Sarr at the back post completely, and he ended up scoring the goal. So I feel it very well could have been Van de Ven, and he could have walked away with 2 goals in that game. That's a story, right? But see, 14 points, I can't complain much. That's a lot. So I'm very happy. I think he's a nice player to have in your team as well, from from a mid to long term perspective as well. See, Brighton is a decent fixture. Then they're playing Wolves next. That's an excellent fixture. Leeds is a nice fixture. Villa is a nice fixture. Everton is a nice fixture. I think game week 10 is the time where maybe I look to move him on. Now, see, if this was any other defender, I would have kept him for these 10, 11, 12 fixtures as well, because of the DEFCON factor. But in looking at Van de Ven's data, I don't really see him getting a lot of DEFCON points, right? So we'll assess later. But yeah, very happy with this now. I think from a perspective, right, apart from Romero and Van de Ven, I don't really see any of the players as standout options, so I would stay away. Even the striker situation is a bit up in the air, right? Richarlison was benched, and then Tell started. The Skolo Muani, who could be very soon in the mix going forward. Xavi Simons, I've seen a lot of questions about him in the community. Do you really want Xavi Simons in the team, right? I don't really see him as someone who will score a lot of goals. Maybe a goal here and there. So personally, to me, I don't really consider him an option yet. Once we start seeing strong underlying data, then I think we can come back to Xavi Simons in the future. So that was the West Ham Spurs game. Brentford versus Chelsea was interesting. Palmer comes off the bench and rescues Chelsea. Caicedo scores a goal, but they end up losing the game late, very very late. I feel that Chelsea looked very shaky defensively, and I think that could get worse with the midweek games in the Champions League. So something to keep an eye on, right? So if you have an attacker that's playing Chelsea, I would say don't be too scared to start an attack against Chelsea. I feel that they could end up getting something against a team like Chelsea, right? Joao Pedro, I don't know what to say about this guy. He just keeps. I mean, he looks so ordinary from an FPL perspective. I think he's a very good player in real life, but from an FPL perspective, he keeps getting these points, and I have no clue how. Right? He had such an ordinary game against Brentford as well, but he got an assist. How does he get an assist? He's going into that duel with the Brentford player who ends up winning. So the Brentford player wins the duel, but the ball ricochets off the Brentford player's head to Joao Pedro's forehead, and it falls to a Chelsea player, and that's how he gets the assist. Crazy. I think it's just one of those seasons where a player, if he's in that hot streak, he just keeps getting points, and I think that's what's happening with Joao Pedro right now. But all that matters is this guy's playing minutes, he's getting points. So if you have him in your team, well done, and his ownership is very high as well. Personally, I'm not very keen on bringing him in. I don't see a lot of strong underlying data, but if he continues to do well for you, I mean, nothing like it, right? Great, that's great news. This is the big one. I won't go deep into the City United game before I talk about the Burnley Liverpool. There's not much to talk about, right? I think it's just purely the fact that Amorim got his team selection wrong. He didn't start Casemiro. I think had he started Casemiro and Bruno, I don't see the result changing, but I think United would have performed much better. I don't know why he gave Dorgu a start. It's absolutely rubbish, I would say, Dorgu. You know, Doku was just having fun on that flank, man. Like, he was absolutely destroying United from that side. So, bad team selection. I think not much to say. Not much to say about Haaland as well. We'll talk about Foden a little later. Before we cover this game, Burnley Liverpool. Wow, I feel so lucky that I ended up with a Salah goal on my triple captaincy, because I was convinced at one point that my triple captainship will go for a waste, because it's almost like I feel that Scott Parker, he watched my my previous episode where I said that Burnley is rubbish and Scott Parker is not up to the mark and all those things, and he almost took it personally, because I've never seen Scott Parker set up that well defensively in a game ever, not just in terms of instructions, but the way the whole plan was executed by Burnley players as well. It's almost like I wasn't watching Burnley. I was not watching Scott Parker's Burnley. It's almost like I was watching Atletico Madrid or the Mikel Arteta team. I mean, they were so tight, so composed, right? Brilliant. I think Burnley were brilliant. I think Kyle Walker was excellent, right? It's almost like watching Kyle Walker in prime. The way he played, right? Hats off to Burnley, of course. But Salah on my triple captaincy got 27 points. That's 9 into 3. Do I feel lucky about it? No. Why? Because unlike SemenYO, we already know that Salah is on penalties, right? So if Liverpool, Salah is a 90-minute man. If Liverpool win a penalty, whether it's early in the game, the duration doesn't matter, right? It could be in the first minute, second minute, 10th minute, 30th minute, 45th minute, 70th minute, 90th minute, extra time. It doesn't matter. Liverpool get a penalty, Salah will take it. I don't see it as lucky, right? It's a decision that was made keeping that in mind. So I don't feel lucky in the sense, but yes, it almost didn't look good, I would say, and it was a little underwhelming. But 9 points is not that bad. I was expecting 15, I got 9, but 9 is better than 3. So I take that happily. He scored a goal, got me a bonus. Yeah, happy about it. We'll talk about Liverpool a little more in detail. Let's head over to the Gameweek 5 fixtures first. You can just look at which players we could target. Brighton Spurs, I don't see much happening there. again, just we've done a lot of talking on Crystal Palace as well. Not much happening in the Wolves Leeds game. I think the games I would like to talk about a little bit are, one is obviously Liverpool Everton. I think United Chelsea is another one, and I will not go much into the Bournemouth Newcastle game because I've already spoken about SemenYO a lot while we were reviewing the Bournemouth Brighton game, so I will ignore that as well. Same with the Sunderland Villa game. We've done a lot of talking on Villa. I've spoken about the Sunderland keeper being a legit option as well. And long story short, for Aston Villa, if you still have Watkins and Rodgers, just sell them, man. Sell them. See, any player can score a goal in any game, right? Just holding on to them in the hope that they'll suddenly become good, they will not become good, right? So, yeah. And yeah, lastly, the Arsenal City game. So I think these three are the games that I would like to discuss. Firstly, the Liverpool Everton game. See, now my biggest problem with Liverpool is that some of the stupid things that Arne Slot is doing, and again, this is something that I have pointed out in the previous episodes on this podcast as well. What is Arne Slot trying, right? It's one game, two game, three games, four games. Also the Community Shield game, of course. And there is enough signs that I'll just go to the transfers page. Yeah, we'll just looking for Florian Wirtz here, right? He's actually one of the worst players I've seen in the Premier League in a long time. The problems are this guy, right? Now, I spoke about his profile in pre-season, that once he comes into the team, there is always this fear that because he's playing the number 10 role, he's going to have the most touches in the game. And the layman football fan thinks that anyone who's taking a lot of touches is a good player, but that's not really true. You watch the game, and since Florian Wirtz has arrived, big money signing 150 million, he's absolutely destroyed the team from a chemistry point of view. In terms of adapting to the league, he's not cut out for the Premier League. That's firstly. Long story short, I wanted to give him the benefit of doubt after the first game, second game, third game, fourth game, but he still keeps making the same mistakes. He takes too many touches. There is an ego factor, and that stops him from playing the ball to Salah when Salah is in a better position, because he has that ego, right? So Wirtz is insecure that he doesn't want to be the sidekick to Mo Salah, and that is stupid because Mo Salah is he's not such a high level as a player, right? You definitely are not at the same level as him, so you cannot be insecure of Mo Salah. That's number one. He's taking corners. He's almost got a monopoly on corners on both sides, and his delivery is again not very good. It's rubbish. If the delivery was good, I think Van Dijk could have scored a goal by now, but that hasn't happened. So, see, his delivery on set pieces is not good. Liverpool have relied on some really special long-range efforts from Gravenberch and Soboslai so far, and obviously moments of brilliance from Mo Salah here and there. So it's not really happening. I don't know why. I know that you spent big money and you want this guy to come good. Okay, that's fine, but that shouldn't come at the cost of a player who's been your main guy, who's been one of the best players alongside De Bruyne for the last 7, 8, 9 years in the league, in the Premier League, at the very highest level. You're talking about Mo Salah here, right? You're not talking about any nobody. It's not a Townsend you're talking about. You're talking about a player who got you 40-45 attacking returns, single-handedly winning you the league last season. And what are you doing? You're isolating him for this guy. I mean, I have no words, right? He is making Liverpool worse, and Wirtz is the worst player I've seen in terms of a big money signing in football history, right? He's atrocious, right? Takes too many touches, takes too long on the ball. His decision making is not very good. all you need is a defender charging at him, and he'll make a bad decision. And the fact that he's very very clearly insecure of Mo Salah, and that's not really helping his cause, and that is affecting Liverpool on the whole. Now, obviously, when I tell you something, I'm not making it up. We can actually back it by data. So what we'll do is we'll just pick Liverpool players here. Again, we'll just look at all the data at the official Premier League site. We don't need fancy graphics tables because it can all be done here. So shout out to official Premier League site for all of this data. We will just filter this by let's take should we check it by expected goals, or I was just wondering if there was a total shots filter. We can also just select thread, right? That gives, so basically you see the ICT index here, right? It just gives you an idea of what kind of influence a player is having on the pitch from an FPL perspective. So that's the influence thing, which it could be a lot of things, right? How commanding the keeper is, how influential a defender is for the team, and the other ones are very straightforward: creativity and threat. So let's just pick the threat, filter, and we'll just go down, and you look at this. Salah is not at the top, and he is second only because he got the penalty against Burnley, right? Look at his XG numbers apart from that. 0.26 against Bournemouth, and remember that 0.26 XG came because he almost created that goal single-handedly. He chased down that loose ball, went all the way, and that's how he scored the goal. Nothing against Newcastle, absolutely nothing against Arsenal as well, almost nothing against Burnley. So from a tactical perspective, Liverpool are not providing any service to Mo Salah. He does not have a lot of penalty area touches. This guy, historically, Mo Salah has always averaged almost 3.5 to 4 shots per game, and that is why he's so lethal. You're now bringing him down to absolutely 0 or 1 shot per game. That's not good enough, and that will affect Liverpool. And remember, I told you at the start of the podcast that there could be a scenario where I may actually end up moving on Mo Salah, and this is the problem, right? So as of now, again, I don't want to sell him because, like I said in the previous episode, I am sure that Arne Slot will be reminded of this by people in his analytics team, that listen, whatever you're trying is not working out and it's actually making us worse, right? So it's a big problem, honestly. But the fact of the matter is that Salah has the historical data, and he's always been good, right? So we have that years of data, and we are hoping that Arne Slot will start using his common sense and go back to what has worked for him. So I think it's fair to give Mo Salah the Everton game, and that's the whole point. The whole reason why I have Salah and Haaland, right? Just one sec. So that's the whole point of having Salah and Haaland in the team, right? So that becomes a factor. I think I'll give him the Everton game and hopefully the Palace game, where I expect him to go big if Liverpool sort out their tactical issues. But it's not looking good, man. Like right now, it's not looking good, honestly. I hope that changes. Let's see. If it doesn't change, I'm more than happy to, unfortunately, move Salah on. Maybe if it turns out that Isak, once he's fit and he's starting games regularly, and it'll be interesting how they set up, right, with Isak. So if it turns out that Isak is their main man in terms of the chances being created and stuff like that, then I think it's an easy switch to Isak. But I think Salah deserves the Everton game and Palace game, and then we'll see how things go in terms of Slot Does he revert to Salah being the main man? Does he not? I think that definitely becomes a factor. So yeah, keen on giving. I hope that I'm a little worried about Ekiteke not starting the Everton game, because Slot said that Isak will feature against Atletico Madrid. So that will be interesting to see as well. So that's a little worry I have in terms of Ekiteke. So let's hope he starts that one. Uh, just before we wrap up, right? I think the United Chelsea game could be an open game. I know historically, if you look at this fixture, United versus Chelsea, it's always been a very low scoring game, and there have been a lot of nil-nils as well in this fixture. I just have a feeling with the state of play that I'm seeing this year, United can't defend. Right, that's very obvious. If you look at them, they're a bad defensive side. There's no doubt about that. On the other hand, even though the results have not really worked in their favor, uh, the attacking data is still good this season. So they are creating chances, but it's not really getting converted. So I think that will change. That there will be some games where they'll absolutely overperform on their expected goals rate, and then people will be like, "Oh, United are lucky and all that," but it's not lucky. They've been creating chances. They'll just revert back to the mean. It's just how probability works. Sometimes it works in your favor. Sometimes it doesn't work in your favor. That's the nature of it. So yeah, my feeling is with with what I just told you about the United defense and their attacking numbers being strong, and also the Chelsea defense, right? I just pointed, and you watch the Brentford. Chelsea looked so suspect defensively. Uh, I think there could be goals in this game. That's my honest feeling. I think it could be a little bit of an open game. I don't know who will win. I don't know if United wins or Chelsea win, and I don't care about that honestly. But I think it could be a 2-2, 3-3 kind of a game where there will be a lot of chances. It'll just be a matter of whether or not they convert those chances, right? So that becomes very important. So that's my feeling. So just looking at the team, I'll go to my bus team, right? So just looking at the team, I feel that Bruno could do well. That's my feeling. Uh, in my bus team right now, if you notice, I have Bruno as my captain. I think it's going to be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but because of the factors that I've just told you, right, and the fact that Bruno is on penalties, obviously he will be good for Defcon. I think it's the kind of game where unlike the City game where City keeps so much of the ball, for example. Uh, the Chelsea and United game will be a little different, where I think both teams will be direct. And see, the whole thing about DEFCON is that if both teams are playing direct football, there is scope for DEFCON for both teams, especially midfielders, for pick up the ball recovery points. Because unlike defenders, midfielders get points for ball recoveries as well, right? So if Bruno is making 7, 8, 9 ball recoveries and he's getting 2, 3, 4 CBIT, he ends up with 12 DEFCON. So that's an instant floor of 4 points. So that's my thinking, because apart from the City game, Bruno has actually done well. I just looking at his DEFCON numbers prior to the he's done well in the Arsenal game. Just missed on the DEFCON by 1 point. Got the DEFCON against Fulham. Got the DEFCON against Burnley as well. See the factor, right? That Burnley, Fulham, Arsenal all play direct football. City, on the other hand, are a bit more possession heavy side. They like to keep a lot of the ball and stuff like that. There's not much scope for ball recoveries for a midfielder, in that sense. So I think the Chelsea game bodes well because of the style of play. I'm looking at Bruno as a captain who gives me a floor of 4 points. So 4 into 2 is 8. If he gets a goal, he gets 3 bonus. That's a 12 pointer for me. Gets a goal and an assist, that's a 15 point. That's a thinking constantly, right? So that's what my thought process is right now. Again, just going back to Bruno. Uh, Also, just looking at the kind of involvements he's had. See, he's creating chances. He created chances against City. He created chances against Burnley. Obviously, scored the penalty, the late penalty against Burnley as well. He created chances against. Didn't create a lot of chances against Fulham, but he had chances himself against Fulham, including that. I think he missed a penalty in the Fulham game. Was it right? Yeah, he missed a penalty in the Fulham game. So that happened, and then he created chances in the Arsenal game as well. So I think with all those things, and coupled with the factor that Arsenal City, right? I think that could be a tight game. Uh, I think honestly, I think Haaland scores in that game, but you just don't know what you're getting with Arteta, right? I mean, what if he's just setting? He's a stubborn manager. What if he's just setting up for a 0-0? And we saw it against Liverpool as well. That even when Arsenal went 1-0 down, Arsenal were not interested in going back into the game. They were happy to take the 1-0 because back of the mind, Arteta was constantly thinking about the goal difference. So you don't really feel comfortable, captaining a player against a side as irritating as Arsenal, right? So that's my factor. But I may still captain Haaland because of the kind of form that he's in. I think the City players will be really up for it, and there's this rivalry between the Arsenal defenders and Haaland, right? Because of what has happened in the past, right? I think Haaland is a legit shout as well. So I'm just thinking one of these two, either Bruno or Haaland, to be my game week 5 captain. If it looks like if Liverpool play in the midweek game, and if it looks like Salah is back to his old self, and that's not because of him, because of Arne Slot. If Arne Slot sort of comes to his senses and he says that, okay, listen, Salah, I've been stupid so far, and I've asked you to play that isolated role. I got it wrong, and I want you to be the main man again. If that happens, so I'm going to watch the Liverpool Atletico Madrid game very closely, and if that happens again, I think I'm more than happy to captain Salah. But if that doesn't happen, I just have the cushion of just having Salah in my team, not captaining him. So if he does well, I'll still take his points, but I don't want to put the captaincy on him again, at least until the tactics change. And at this point, I'm thinking maybe 40% Bruno, 40% Haaland, and 20% Salah, just because on paper he has the easiest fixture, right? So that's the thinking right now. Rest of the team, I'm pretty happy. I'm happy with Van Dijk in my defense. I'm happy with Van de Ven in my defense. I'm happy with Senesi in my defense. There is a chance maybe I play Goodmanson instead of Reinders, but that's a wait and watch. I've made one early transfer in my team here, so I took Pedro Neto out. It's a move that I was contemplating last week as well for a hit, right? And in hindsight, I should have done it. If I had done it, I would have ended up with 8 more points or 6 more points. If you just factor in the hit and the 2 points that Neto got and Caicedo got 12, that's a 6-point gain that I would have made. But anyway, it is what it is. I have Caicedo in my team here. Absolutely love this pick. I think he's going to do so well. He got 12 against Brentford, 4 against Fulham, 8 against West Ham. So yeah, just fantastic. I think in most games, right? I think in 8 out of 10 games, a player like Caicedo, he gives you a floor of 4 points. And every now and then, if he's getting a goal or an assist, I think he could be an FPL cheat code for that price. This is the new version of FPL. You have to adapt to this. So that's my thinking, and that's why I'm more than happy to, get Caicedo in my team. And yeah, hopefully gets me a 4-point against United. Even if he doesn't, I'm more than happy. Even if he doesn't get a goal or assist, I'm still happy to walk away with 4 points, and that's the kind of a profile he's got. So very happy to. I know that there's gonna be. I mean, just the way people think in the with all the herd mentality, right, among content creators. They're not really going to look at Caicedo seriously, but he is a serious pick, and don't look at his price, don't look at his position, look at the change in rules, look at the points that he's offering, and honestly, see, if you have a player like Moses Caicedo, right? Uh, he's giving you 4 points every week, for example. Let's ignore the goals and assists for now. Caicedo is a player who will definitely start every single Chelsea game. Maybe he gets a rest here and there. So you're looking at 37, 38 starts in the Premier League. So that is ridiculous. You take an average of 4 points every game. He's still getting you close to 160 points over the season. One position that you don't even have to worry about, that's getting you 160 points. That's unbelievable. Honestly, that is unbelievable. Now on top of that, he'll get you a goal or assist here and there. I think he could end up hitting 170, 180, 190 points for 5.5 million. This is a pricing mistake. I think the FPL towers, right, when they came up with this change of rules, I think they just went in with this price thinking that let's just see what happens. Let's give FPL managers a chance to just pounce on this opportunity, because with the new rules, I don't expect Caicedo to be a 5.5 million player next season. I think he's going to be a 7 million player next season. So yeah, that's interesting. So more than happy to have Caicedo in my team. And yeah, I think that's about it. We've covered a lot of things in terms of midfielders, and see, not much to talk about particular defenders, right? Because I know there will be a lot of content creators who do segments and they'll rank the defenders one by. I think the key is very simple. This is the season of centre backs who get DEFCON points, so focus on that. So get the likes of Virgil van Dijk, get the likes of Senesi, get the likes of Anderson from Fulham, who will also do well in terms of DEFCON, Lacroix from Crystal Palace. So these are the kind of guys that you need to go for, or you need to go for cheap gems like Van de Ven, who have the goal threat in them every now and then, and he's playing for a manager like Thomas Frank, and Spurs look like a good defensive side. So yeah, that's the thinking. As things stand, I'm just trying to spread the risk because I have Senesi in my team. I am at this point thinking of just benching Petrovic and starting Dubravka, right? So hopefully Burnley are. I don't expect them to be so defensive against Nottingham Forest, but I hope that is the case once again. They set up defensively in the Nottingham Forest game. I hope that Elliot Anderson, gets DEFCON points, gets like a nice 4 or 5 pointer, and Dubravka gets a clean sheet, and everyone is happy. And hopefully, if Nottingham Forest score, I hope it's Anderson who's getting an assist or a goal, right? So that there's some positive out of that. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers this episode. We did a lot of deep diving game after game review. We've spoken about Mo Salah being a factor, obviously, and yeah, I hope things change for better when it comes to Mo. And listen, about Haaland, right? If you don't have him in your team, you're playing a wild card, just get him in. Don't wait for game week 6, game week 13, game week 7. It's very clear that this guy will score the most goals this season. Why do you want to wait? Don't listen to the content creators. Get him in your team. He's going to score the most goals. And hopefully, once Salah finds his feedback, if you have a structure like mine, if you've listened to me, and if you have a similar structure to mine, you are ahead of the curve because you have such a strong spine. I mean, I look at my team here. I see Salah, Haaland, Bruno, and Van Dijk. That's a very strong spine. And after bringing in Caicedo for Neto, I think like 1.5 million in the bank. So I can still upgrade my Ekitike to Gyökeres in game week 6. I can still upgrade my defense. I can upgrade my goalkeeper to a Raya. So there's a lot of things that I can do, right? So yeah, just a lot of cheap gems, I would say, in this season. So don't be afraid. Get Haaland in, and we can worry about Salah later. I think we can always move. It's not necessary that if you're bringing Haaland, you have to sacrifice Salah. I'll keep saying it again and again, right? start with both on the wild card. Keep an open mind that if the poor form of Salah continues, then you can probably take him out. Yeah, that would be my advice once again. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, you can let me know in the comments below. Like this video, share it with your friends and family. Uh, yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe to my channel, and I'm doing a giveaway for the people that subscribe to my channel, for my followers, and it's going to be lucky draw at the end of the season. For more details, you can just drop me a text on my Twitter handle. It's a big prize, right? So be a part of it, be a part of the Z Talks FPL family. And I hope you have a good game week. We'll see if there are any interesting events after the Champions League games midweek. I may do a very short recording, but I don't really feel like there's a need for it anymore. We have done a lot of talking already. So yeah, I think that's a wrap. And subscribe to my channel, like, share, and I will see you again hopefully very soon. Until then, it's a goodbye.